welcome to my channel. In today's video we're going to discuss about how to follow your child. So following the child is something that many Montessori teachers say and we encourage parents to follow their child. What do we mean when we say follow your child? So obviously it's not about physically following your child. So let's see what you need to do to follow your child. If we go back to the time of Maria Montessori was one of the first ones to properly observe children, and she did that in her first classroom, in the first Casa dei Bambini. In that first school, she discovered that the children were not acting in the way that we were thinking children were at the time. So she realized that children were not empty vessels, that they were well able to respect others, to show empathy, to be focused and to learn by themselves, which was a very different vision of the child than the vision that teachers and parents had at the time. So discovering that new child, Maria Montessori was encouraging parents and teachers to really follow that child, because for her the child knew what he needed. She believes that the child has an inner drive that's going to tell the child what to do, what to learn about, how to explore, what skills to work on, and so on. And then she believed that we were just there to guide the child, just there to provide the proper resources and the proper environments to help the child to develop. And that's what we mean when we say follow the child. It's that your child knows already what they need. They know, your children know already what they need. They know what they want to learn about. They know what they need to work on, and so on. The issue most of the time is that we have misconceptions about what our children need, and we believe that we need to provide specific activities and that they need to work on specific skills, and we have those preconceived ideas most of the time without even observing our own children and noticing what they need. We just see others doing activities or providing specific toys or Montessori activities. For example, we check on Instagram and we see those shelfies and we want our children to do the same activities, but then it doesn't correspond to what our children need. So it doesn't work. Or we have this idea that by that age our children should know about this and that. So we kind of provide activities to work on those skills, and basically our children were not ready for those skills, or maybe those skills are too easy for them, so they don't want to work on them, or they're just not interested. So let's see what we need to do to properly follow our children. Now, first, you need to observe your child. So just observe what do they play with spontaneously, what are they interested in, what activities do they go back to regularly, and also observe their current skills and abilities. Maybe they're working very hard on to practicing writing, and you have noticed that they don't have a good pencil grasp. So maybe they're going to have to work on their fine motor skills. So you will have to provide further activities to help them to work on their fine motor skills, and those activities don't have to be about writing. It could be, like Play-Doh or transferring activities or using a spoon, and that will help on the long run to reach that skill of being able to hold properly a pencil. But first you need to work on some previous skills to allow your child to reach that further skills that they were trying to work on. So you notice that, or you notice that they are into language, that they're always talking to you, asking you questions, and so you're going to work on more language activities. Observe your child, observe what they spontaneously work with, what doesn't work, what skills they are working on, and take notes, mental notes about that, and then you're going to prepare your environment with those activities in mind. Not only those activities that you have been thinking about, but also in general, prepare an environment that will allow your child to work as freely as possible, to explore as freely as possible, because the more your child is free to explore, the more it's going to show you really who he is and what he likes to do. Because if you limit your child, if you limit your child experience, if you don't allow your child, for example, to be physically in the house, or you don't provide a space where it can be a bit more physical, then maybe your child is not going to be able to show you that what he's interested in is to climb and to jump and to dance. So make sure that you provide as much freedom as possible. Obviously, it's always freedom within limits, because you need to provide safety limit to your child to make sure that you keep them safe, and it's normal in life, there are limits. Know that you have observed your child and that your house in general allows freedoms. Provide activities that are based on your child's interests and needs. So here I'm going to try to give you a bit more information about the difference between interest and needs and wants, because it can be a bit confusing, and you may think that you have to provide only activities that caters for your child's interest, no matter what their interests are. So interests sometimes are unnecessary want. So following your child doesn't mean following their interest, no matter what they are. What I mean by that is, like, often when we discovered Montessori, maybe our children have been exposed already to fantasy and highly stimulating toys, screen times, and many structured play where the adult entertain the child. So in those cases, you may think that when your child asks for a new Pokemon, that must be what they need, that is their interest, and you should follow the interest. Or you might think that if they ask for more screen times, at some point they will self-regulate if you give them total freedom with screen time. But it doesn't really work that way, because those kind of very highly stimulating toys or screen times or fantasy-based toys that kind of lead to collection of toys can all lead to kind of an addiction or a dependency. Those kind of activities and toys and screen time also doesn't encourage imagination. So obviously your child is a bit limited in what he can do with that, and he hasn't learned to play by himself, he hasn't learned to explore by himself, so he might need a bit of support to transition from those kind of toys that he knows, those kind of activities that he is used to, towards something that will help him on the long term, to develop his imaginations and his skills and so on. You kind of need a period when you're going to remove step by step those highly stimulating aspects of your child's life, while you step by step introduce more practical life and a less cluttered playroom, and you remove some of the highly stimulating toys and replace by some activities, while keeping some of those toys that your child was very familiar with, and so on. So it might take a bit of time when you transition. And then you might feel during that point that you're not following your child because you're removing what he's used to. You're removing some interests like Pokemons and so on. Or you might have to kind of like do some kind of transitional activities when you have like a continuing activities with Pokemons, for example, until you find, the sweet spot when your child is interested to develop some skills or to explore more open-ended toys. And then when your child is a bit less interested by those fantasy-based toys or screen times and so on. But it can take a bit of time. And this was a bit the same experience that Montessori had in the first classroom, because at first they received toys and the children were very interested in the toys. But at some point they lost interest in those toys because they couldn't do much with those toys. The toys were too precious, and they were limited in the use of those toys compared to the practical life activities in the classroom, or the interactions they had with the other children in the classroom, or the proper learning materials and proper Montessori learning materials that they had access to became more interesting than the toys. And hopefully that's what is going to happen with your children. Obviously your children can still have toys, all kind of toys at home, and it's not about removing everything that you had before, but you will notice when you keep observing your children, when you keep introducing those new Montessori activities, maybe, that your children will start to have more interest for those activities because they really respond to a need compared to toys or screen times that just entertain them without really helping them to learn something. It's a bit like comparing, the food that we need to eat, the food that we need to be in good health and so on. So you need to eat, proper food every day versus, eating sweets. So sweets are good, candies are good. You eat them, you have treats, but you cannot sustain yourself only on sweets. So you do need to have proper food, and that's the same for the children. They need those proper activities, they need those proper interactions, they need those proper skills to work on, and not just the cute toys and screen time and the activities that will entertain them. They do need everything else as well. So your role as a parent is really to guide your child, to prepare that environment and to guide your child, because when we say follow your child, the original code was about saying following your child as his leader. So you are the leader of your children, but you are kind of a cheerleader. You are the one who is going to guide them, and you're going to provide that environment, you're going to observe them, and you're going to find those activities that really going to resonate with your children, because it is what they need right now. And you're going to make mistakes. You're going to think, okay, they need to work on, I can see that they like to sort, so I'm going to give them a sorting activities, and the sorting activities will not be interesting for your children, despite that you do know they like to sort, but maybe they like to sort colors, and that's not what you have observed. You have observed just then randomly placing cubes one after the other, and you see that on a line, and you think, okay, that's sorting or placing the cubes on the line, but what they were doing was sorting the cube by colors, and you haven't noticed that, so you might have to go further, and it's a lot of trial and error and trying a new activities until you find the one that is interesting for your child, and you just try and try again. So it's definitely a process. Everything, I think, in parenting is a process, actually. And obviously, we can provide those activities, those invitations to learn, and those opportunities, but ultimately, the child will be the one who is going to choose what he does, the one who is going to decide if he does that activities, and is the one who is going to learn. So we do need to let him explore and decide for himself what is good for him. I hope that was useful, and there are more information on the blog, and there are other videos about Montessori concepts, and I hope that was useful for you. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.